we start the last lesson for the year, new lesson for the year, I should say. Reminder that yesterday was the deadline to do objective 3 and 4 if you wanted those grades replaced. If you haven't finished them, they'll still go into marking period 4, they just won't be replaced. The last 2 objectives, the deadline, in Canvas it was Tuesday, but I moved it to Wednesday. So Wednesday is the last day to do those 2 objectives if you want those replaced. The last day to do the test regardless is June 8th, but that's also the last day to do retakes, so keep that in mind. So this will be the last part of Unit 10, the last lesson for the year, and then next week we'll just be doing final exam review. Well, basically for the rest of the year we'll be doing final exam review until final exams. So everyone should have these notes in front of them. Last class we talked about absolute value equations. Today we're going to talk about absolute value inequalities. They're very similar but also different at the same time. So let's talk about these 2 cases first. If we have some greater than or equal to case, what we do is take it and split it into 2, drop the absolute value just like we did last class, keep one of them exactly how it looks, so x is greater than or equal to 5. The other one, we're going to change the direction of the sign so it's now less than or equal to and make the 5 negative. So kind of like what we were doing last class, but a little different. And then we're going to graph both of these things. So these would both be closed circles at -5, at +5, going to the left, going to the right. If we were to do the interval notation, starting left, going to the right, it starts at -infinity, stops at -5, it's closed, so bracket. Because there's a space, this is going to be a or. So when we were doing compound inequalities, we were kind of doing the foundation for this. Absolute values are inequalities are really just compound inequalities. So greater than or equal to are or inequalities, or compound inequalities. Which mean less than or equal to have to be and. And we would do the same thing to C. Drop the absolute value, keep the sign the same, keep it positive. For the other one, change the direction of the sign, make the 8 negative. In this case, maybe you don't remember which one's and which one's or. This one, you could draw all the arrows. So if I start at -8, close, going to the right. Start at 8, go to the left. They're going to overlap, so you're going to need one more with just the endpoints and the line going through it. If you know it's an and you just want to put the line segment, that's fine, but if you want to do all 3, that's also fine. Questions so far? I'm going to give you this information, excuse me, so you can write that down. Oh, I forgot to do the interval notation, but that is what it would have been. -8 to 8. So absolute value inequalities are really compound inequalities. Less than or equal to is and, greater than or equal to is or. So just like last class, we'll go through some specific examples any you guys want to see, and then you'll have time to practice, work on the review, work on finishing tests, work on retake stuff. When we start to solve it, the steps are very similar to the equations. Isolate the absolute value expression, create two cases. This KISS method, you can use it if you want. Keep one the same, switch the other sign, switch the direction of the sign. So a negative and the direction of the sign. Solve both and then graph it and write it in interval notation. Anyone still writing in your class? So we basically did an example like 1 and 2. So we're going to start with 3 and then do 4. So if you know what type it is, that will help you. But it only helps you if it's already isolated. So if we have a greater than or greater than or equal to, and the absolute value bars are already isolated, I can say this is a 4. You can still sit here if you want, or you can sit. So for the first one, we're going to, it's already isolated, so we don't have to do that part. Make two cases, drop the absolute value bars, so x minus 1 is greater than 6, keep 1 exactly the same. The inside of the other one is the same, and then change the direction of the sign, and make the 6 negative. And then solve both. X is greater than 7 and x is less than negative 5. So when we graph this, because it's greater than and it's an or, they should graph apart. So these are both open, one at 7, no, it's not 7, going to the right, and one at negative 5, going to the left. So the interval notation, where would this start if it keeps going to the left? If this kept going, what would be the starting point? Negative infinity. It would stop at negative 5, it's open, so parentheses. Or start again at 7, again open, parentheses, and then go to infinity.
How do I know when to use a bracket for a
Bracket would be if these are equal to, then the numbers will be brackets. Other questions on that one? And then 4 is going to be the opposite. These are already isolated. This is a less than, so that's going to be an and. So I'm going to set up my two cases. X plus 2 is less than or equal to 7. Keep 1 exactly the same. Start to make your second case. X plus 2, switch the direction of the sign and make it negative. And then solve both. Subtract 2 to both. So x is less than or equal to 5, and x is greater than or equal to negative because this is an and, it's going to graph together. So you could just put one line segment from lowest to highest. So starting at -9, going to +5, with a line in between it. Or if maybe we forgot what and looks like and we just want to double check, we could graph everything. Start at 5, that would be close to the left. Start at -9, that would be close to the right. And you can see where they overlap. So the arrows aren't needed, but you have to do the line segment. Do you have any questions about that? Oh, let me do it in one. Okay. So starting to end, these would both be brackets, -9 to +5. If you don't have any questions on that one, go ahead to the next page. And we're going to do 9 and 10. So greater than we know is or, but it has to be isolated because it could change. So I'm going to put or, but it might change depending on how we isolate it. So starting with, how would we start to isolate this? How would we get rid of the 10 and the -3? What would you do first with these two things? What do you guys think? You have 50-50 chance. You're going to do something with the 10 first or the -3? So add 3 to both sides. Divide both sides by 10. The sign didn't change at all, so it's still greater than, it's still going to be an or. Remember to keep your absolute value signs until it's isolated. Then create your two cases. X -4 is greater than 5, and x -4 is less than -5. I didn't have space to write them side by side, but if you have space, you can do that. Solve both by adding 4. We have x is greater than 9, and x is less than -1. So we could graph those, they'd both be open. -1 would be here to the left, 9 would be just off the graph here to the right. Interval notation would start at -infinity, go to -1, or start at 9 and go to infinity. What questions do we have about that? And then number 10, it is a less than or equal to, so it should be an and. but it might change as we isolate, so I'm going to write that and change it if need be. Same as this one, get rid of the 11. By subtracting on both sides. Get rid of the 1/2 by flipping it and multiplying it by 2 on both sides. The sign didn't change. So set two cases, drop this absolute value signs. 4x minus 4 is less than or equal to 8. And 4x minus 4 is greater than or equal to negative 8. And solve both. Add 4 to both sides. We have 4x is less than or equal to 12, and 4x is greater than or equal to negative 4. And divide both sides by 2. So again, because this is an and, you should have them going towards each other. So starting at negative 1, ending at 3, with a line in between. But if you needed to graph everything to make sure x is less than or equal to 3 would be closed to the left. X is greater than or equal to negative 1 would be closed to the right. And you can see where they overlap between negative 1 and 3. So if you haven't finished the fourth objective, this is really like more practice for that, just in a different context. Do you have any questions on that one? Or any other questions we skipped over that we want to see you go over? And this could be on the practice as well.
Number 6.
6 from this page. From this page. Okay. So it is less than, so that should be and. But let's see. Let's isolate the absolute value first. Get rid of the 1 by adding it to both sides. It is still less than, so it's still going to be and. Make two cases. X plus 3 is less than 6, and x plus 3 is greater than negative 6. And solve both. Subtract 3 to both. X is less than 3, and x is greater than negative 9. Because it's an and, it should go together. Start at negative 9 and end at 3. But if you wanted to double check, you could graph them both. X is greater than negative 9, we go to the right. X is less than 3, we go to the left, and you can see where they overlap. Those would both be parentheses and the interval notation. Any others you want to see, do go over, review, have questions on? We have to get rid of the -2. How do you think we would do that? Multiply both sides by -2. We have absolute value 4x minus 8 is less than, or sorry, since we multiplied both sides, it's going to change the direction of the sign. So it was a less than, so it was going to be an and, but because we changed the direction, this is now a 4. So set up two cases. 4x minus 8 is greater than or equal to 12, and 4x minus 8 is less than or equal to negative 12. Then we can solve both. Add 8 to both sides. We have 4x is greater than or equal to 20. And 4x is less than or equal to negative 4. Divide both sides by 4. We have x is greater than or equal to 5. And x is less than or equal to negative 1. Those should graph apart from each other, starting at -1, close to the left, and starting at 5 to the right. And then that interval notation would start at negative infinity, stop at -1, that would be a bracket, or another bracket, 5 to infinity. Any other questions? I'm going to pass out the finished tests I have that those of you that said you wanted to retake. The Unit 9 tests, you guys have those. Those that said you wanted to retake, you're going to be working on that retake stuff. If you need to finish a test, now is probably going to be the last time in class that you really have time to do so. So I would use this class time to finish your tests. Otherwise, you'll have to come before or after school. Same thing with retakes. This will probably be the last time you have time in class to work on retake stuff. Do that. Work on final exam review. Work on more of these. Work on past Khan Academy. The Khan Academy that's due next Friday. Any of those. Come see me if you need help or have questions.